Right now, somewhere on a shelf or a floor or crumpled inside a laundry basket, there's a piece of fabric that used to be pants. You didn't think twice about putting them on this morning, but here's the strange part. No other creature on Earth does this. Dogs don't do this. Wolves don't do this. Elephants, which outsmart plenty of people, have never once reached for a coat. So why do you? The real answer isn't as simple as it got cold. It's stranger than that. It involves lice. Yes, lice. Stay with it. Start with a problem nobody talks about. You are one of the only large mammals on the planet without much fur. Gorillas, wolves, bears, horses, full coats, every one of them. You? Smooth, patchy, oddly pink in places. Scientists think your ancestors lost that fur for a reason. As early humans began chasing prey across open grassland, thick fur became dangerous. Overheating meant collapse. Collapse meant starving. So the fur went, and something else showed up instead. Sweat glands. Millions of them. Somewhere between 2 and 4 million, more than almost any other animal alive. Excellent for cooling down on a hot savanna. Useless in a snowstorm, that's the gap clothing had to fill. The easy story says early humans got cold, wrapped themselves in hides, problem solved. Except the timing doesn't line up. And here's where the lice come in. Researchers at the University of Florida once traced the genetic history of human lice and found something nobody expected. You carry two separate kinds: head lice, living in your hair; body lice, which can only survive inside clothing, never on bare skin. Which means the moment body lice split off genetically from head lice is roughly the moment clothing became permanent. That split, the researchers calculated, happened somewhere between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago, long before humans migrated out of Africa into cold climates. So warmth wasn't the first reason clothes appeared. Something else was going on. One theory: basic protection. Thorns, insects, sunburn, scrapes. A simple hide wrap solves a lot of that, even in a warm climate. The more interesting theory: signaling. Long before clothing, humans were already painting their bodies with ochre pigment, as far back as roughly 200,000 years ago. You were decorating yourself before you were dressing yourself. Once hides entered the picture, the question stopped being, "Am I covered?" and became, "What does this cover say about me? Whose hide is this? What did I kill? What does wearing it mean?" That's not survival, that's status. Then, around 50,000 years ago, something shifts in the record. Bone needles start appearing, not crude punching tools, but needles with tiny eyes, clearly made for stitching. One found in Denisova cave in Siberia, carved from hollow bird bone and polished smooth, is the oldest confirmed needle of its kind. Someone imagined a tool that didn't exist yet, drilled a hole through bone without cracking it, and used it to join material with a controlled stitch. That's not instinct. That's design. And it wasn't only your ancestors doing this. Neanderthals were processing hides with purpose-built stone tools long before they ever met modern humans. Their bodies show cold-adapted traits: shorter limbs, different fat distribution, meaning clothing wasn't optional for them either. In those same Siberian layers, alongside that needle, researchers found pierced ornaments left by Denisovans, a third human lineage identified only in 2010 from a single finger bone. Multiple, separate branches of humanity, arriving at the same idea on their own. Which raises an odd question: is clothing a human thing, or is it just what any cold, social, clever creature eventually invents? Here's the part that should feel unsettling. If clothing were purely practical, every culture would have converged on one efficient design per climate and stopped there. That never happened. Instead, humans made clothing mean something everywhere. Priests dressed differently than warriors. Rulers wore things no one else could touch. The dead were buried in garments chosen for their status. Some of the oldest surviving textile fragments weren't left plain. They were dyed, deliberately, in multiple colors. Not for warmth, for meaning. No other species does this. A peacock displays. A cuttlefish shifts color. Neither one is choosing what that display says about identity, rank, or mood. You do. Every single day. Then the climate turned hostile. Between roughly 120,000 and 70,000 years ago, brutal glacial cycles hit. Lakes vanished. Food collapsed. Some estimates put the surviving human population as low as 10 to 30,000 individuals, small enough that extinction was a real possibility. For the groups who eventually pushed into colder land, clothing stopped being a symbol and became a survival tool. A properly stitched, layered garment traps, warmth at the wrists and neck, exactly where heat escapes fastest. The groups with that knowledge lived. The groups without it didn't. Eventually, hides gave way to woven fiber. The oldest known twisted plant fiber, found in a cave in the country of Georgia, dates back roughly 30,000 years, and even that early thread was already dyed in color. Decoration again, before pure function demanded it. By the time agriculture spread, textiles had become one of the biggest economic forces on the planet. Flax, wool, cotton, silk, entire trade routes, entire empires built on fabric. So why did you start wearing clothes? Not for one reason, for all of them, arriving in overlapping waves. Protection first, meaning almost immediately after. Survival when the climate forced the issue, and eventually art, economy, and language. This morning, you made choices. What to put on, what not to. Those choices said something about who you are, whether you meant them to or not. That's not new. That's the same thing happening around a fire 150,000 years ago with someone wrapped in ochre-stained hide, working out how to say something about themselves without saying a word. You didn't think about pants this morning. Somewhere back on that savanna, someone thought about them for the very first time.